Hello and welcome to Entertain This. It's a podcast about movies, TV shows, and video games. My name's Tom. With me I have
Mitch.
And today we have a special guest. We have Mr. Kash Hovey.
Hello. Hey, thanks for having me.
We appreciate you being on our show. Normally we plug our social media, but Mitch can edit all that in later.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know who Mr. Hovey is, producer, director, writer, and I believe still currently does the On Air with Kash.
Correct.
So, I mean, we know you also do a podcast. We do a podcast. So let's talk about podcasting for a brief time. How'd you get into this podcasting game?
Wow. Okay, so I had a career at WME right when I graduated from college, and I was in the voiceover department. So that really trained me to know about the business side. I mean, it was my upbringing. I was always doing creative things, whether it was writing, performing, drawing, and my dad was in music publishing, so he really got me. He really geared me towards the business side of entertainment. So I did commercials, I'd done some acting, and then I was studying business law, computers, and I got a degree in communication studies. So then I started working at WME right out of college, and after being there for a few years, I was fortunate because the situation I was in, I was around a lot of creative people, so it opened up some opportunities to produce and get in front of the camera again, which was great. They were like, hey, Kash, do you want to come and do this? Yeah, sure, why not? There were productions going on. The industry was shifting. Social media was taking off. So then prior to the pandemic, I was working with some comics who were performing regularly at the Comedy Store in Hollywood. And it was I just really enjoyed the camaraderie. They all had podcasts and there were nights like Whitney Cummings would drop in, Rogan would drop in, Bob Saget would drop in. So it was just like, oh my God, this is awesome, just to see all these comedians work out their new stuff. And then when the pandemic happened, I started doing interviews with friends, and we were talking about what was happening. And, even just we were trying to keep everyone's spirits up as a lot was uncertain. And then that shifted into what I started with On Air with Kash.
It really feels like podcasting almost kind of came out of nowhere because years ago, Rooster Teeth, I think, did the very first live podcast. And that was probably like 10 years ago, I think now. And it was kind of like, what's a podcast? And all of a sudden the pandemic hit, and it's like everybody has a podcast. Rogan has his show. Bill Burr just sits there and goes insane in whatever room he's in with a microphone for like 4 hours. Me and Mitch and our buddy Hayden, who's not here, he's deployed right now to Iraq. The three, he made us start a podcast because he thought we didn't have nothing to do during the pandemic. I mean, you had started your show, and I mean, obviously, you're around a huge creative vat of talent. Like you said, Bob Saget, Rogan, Mrs. Cummings, all those people, and it's such a interesting way that you got involved because for us, we were hanging out, and Hayden's like, "Oh, we should do a podcast," and then he made us go to Mitch's house and sit there with laptops and microphones and do it. Whereas yours was kind of like, oh yeah, we want you to do this. This would be great. And it's like, oh, you got to do it willingly. We got shanghaied.
Yeah, nobody asked us to do it. We just kind of volunteered.
And now it's been 4 years.
Well, that's cool. I mean, even with me, I didn't know what was that. I was just, there were people around me doing it, and it was like, like you said, it became a common thing. And I think that's been one of the benefits of just even with social media and with the internet. It's allowed us to connect and even just, share new ideas and just go with it. Like, hey, we're a group of people who want to talk about certain things or, express ourselves. It's I look at every art form like that creatively.
No, I mean, for us, we've struggled over, I guess, the 4 years. Not necessarily struggle, but just coming up with new stuff to be fresh. We'll do trivia. Oh, if you lose in trivia, you got to watch a horrible movie and tell us about it. And if you swear, you have to take hot sauce that was invented in a lab by maniacs. Who work for the devil, apparently. It's the worst substance known to man. It's terrible. Or, one of us is gone for an extended period of time. It's like, well, what do we do now? Oh, top 10's this and that. Have you, in your podcasting experience, had a similar experience with just keeping everything fresh?
Yeah, well, it's just because when I do On Air with Kash, I mean, I centered it around entertainment. So I was even just interviewing people. We had, I think one of the first ones, my good friend Jackie Moore, she's an actor, she's done a bunch of Lifetime movies. So she was one of the first guests, and for us, it was really, I was started with some of my friends, so it was kind of, we were able to tell our stories and share our experiences in the business, and then it kind of grew into where certain publicists were reaching out and be like, hey, Kash, we have so-and-so, they just did a new film, and I know like you said, it's a very small town when you're around a lot. I mean, well, for instance, I was on my buddy Tyrone Tan, he's been around forever. I mean, we always say he's like the Forrest Gump of the '90s. He's very Oh, really? You look at his social media, he was like everywhere in the early '90s with like Leo and Toby, and then he was on set with George Clooney, and he knows so many people in the industry. And he actually, I got to say, right before we closed for the pandemic, I was on his podcast, and I'd have to say that was also something that helped kickstart me. But with someone like him, he has a show that he does regularly, and recently I got invited because we were promoting something for the Burbank Film Festival. And then there was another person there, and he's like, "Oh, he's going to be my co-host." I great, and we're chatting, and it turned out his name was Michael Campion. He played Jackson on Fuller House, and my dad grew up with the guy who created Full House, so we were kind of in each other's orbits. I mean, he's younger than I am, so I think our worlds just kind of missed, but we were around the same people. And then it was bizarre because I think right before we had gotten an inquiry from his publicist about these shows he was doing, because he's a magician also, and he'd been promoting. So it was just like, oh my God, we did this one podcast together, and that led, hey, come on my podcast. We'll talk about, booking Fuller House, and then what you're doing now with your magic. So I like when it's fun like that, and you get to meet people that way.
I mean, we've been fortunate over the years that, we get to meet more and more people, and get to do more of these interviews and talking. Like, and everybody always has like cool stories and backgrounds, like how they got into like the entertainment business versus us. It's like we just grew up watching stuff, and then we got told, hey, you should do a podcast, and then we did. And it's like, well, what do we do now? It's like, I don't know. Let's talk about stuff. Like, it's like, what do we do now? Talk about other stuff. It's like, oh my God, how do we keep up?
Well, like I do a lot of our like behind the scene kind of stuff, like our social medias and everything like that. And eventually I just got to the point where I was like, well, I looked up some of the actors and actresses' publicists, and I was like, well, I'm just going to email them and ask if they'll do an interview. And I was like, the worst they can do is say no. So,
I mean, we swung for the fence like right off the bat. Like we were like, let's get Tom Cruise on here, let's get George Clooney, and then it was kind of like, okay, let's pump the brakes, guys. Let's just get on base.
Right.
Now, you said earlier you doing voiceover work for WB?
See, I worked in the voiceover studio. They had a voiceover department at the time, and so I worked for the one of the senior partners of the commercials department. And so when you start at an agency, you're like in the mailroom for like a week or however, and then you start floating on desks, and then it just was a good fit for me because I was able to work with a lot of people who had been on shows and who made their living in voiceover. I had a few friends in voiceover growing up, so I basically ran the recording studio, and then they would throw me in. I mean, we had I remember I think like Ty Sheridan had come in right before Ready Player One, and then they'd throw me in the booth, and we auditioned for a few things together, and then Dave Franco, he came in, and so there were times when we'd have people like they needed someone like an actor to read with, so then I'd get to audition for some of this stuff also, and then there was a few like actually a friend of mine, Catherine Bayless, she was on the show Hit the Floor at the time. It was on VH1 show. And we had met right before we signed her, and we had friends in mutual circles, and we were hanging out, and then we ended up collaborating on a few things, and I was helping her with her PR and social media. So that's how that was my like day job, which kind of morphed into, which allowed me some opportunities to expand to a more creative career.
Now, doing like regular acting, on camera versus voiceover stuff, like obviously the biggest difference is you're not being filmed, I guess, doing the voiceover stuff, but is the idea of how to approach being a character similar?
We'll be right back.
Ever wondered what a rhythm-based stealth game with dinosaurs might look like? Or a farming sim in space with zombies? Welcome to the Gaming Blender podcast. I'm Matt, and with my co-host Scott, we take a random game genre and random game mechanics, blend them all up, and pitch wild, totally hypothetical games you've never heard of, and maybe shouldn't. New episodes every other week. Hit play and unleash your inner game dev. No coding required. Search the Gaming Blender on your favorite podcast app now.
Oh, definitely. I mean, you have to, know what you want to do. I do think with voiceover, it's like when you're on camera, it's memorizing your lines and being really, being present and being with the other actor that you're interacting with, knowing what your character's about. But then with voiceover, because you're in a studio and there's the scripts in front of you and you're reading off of it, and then you get, and even just a lot of it's projection too. So it's even being animated. I mean, they'd be like, oh, we're doing this. We want like a hey man, what's up? I'm like a Jeff Spicoli character, or like, or for something like that. Or if you need to be very articulate, and then you enunciate it. So it's that the freedom in the booth is you can kind of goof off more and really like explore what exactly it is that you want. Or I don't mean to say goof off, but there's much more of an animated approach while you're interacting.
Mitch Spicoli is a character from Fast Times at Ridgemont High. I know you.
Sean Penn's first movie.
That's Sean Penn.
Hey man, you're ripping my card. What's up with you, bro? Hey,
Mr. Hand.
Mr. Hand, man.
Mitch, I know you haven't seen Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
I've seen it before, but it's been a while.
I figured you wouldn't remember that. I just want, because I know somebody's probably going, "Who the hell is Spicoli?" Mitch
I know. My
as well
dad made me watch a bunch of like that in Animal House. So
yeah, I watched
Animal
House.
I didn't realize how out of date some of my references are. But that was actually funny with Whitney Cummings, because I got to present I got to interview. She was being presented with the Rodney Respect Award, and I got to interview her. And when she got up to do her speech, she was, it's the Rodney Dangerfield, because they're affiliated with the his foundation that his widow runs is affiliated with LA City College, where I'm an alumni. And so she was saying, like, just growing up, her dad had all these jokes, and then she turns on this movie Caddyshack, and she's like, "Who's this guy in like this really loud golf attire?" And he's like using all my dad's material. So her dad was watching Rodney movies and then saying the jokes like they were his jokes, and watching Rodney movies. So that's where he got it.
There's a funny anecdote. One of the caddies from Caddyshack, he's like, "We're making the movie." He's like, they kept changing the script every 5 minutes. Like, they rewrote that movie like 18 times. And Rodney was like the biggest nervous wreck. Like, he'd go up, he'd do his lines, and then he like would shamble off, and he'd be like, "I'm bombing out there, kid." He's like, "I'm not getting nothing." It's like, "Rodney, we're filming. We can't laugh." It's like, "You're doing great." It's like, I've been through his neighborhood. I'm from Long Island, because he was from Babylon, Long Island, and he was actually like still doing like aluminum siding, like painting, and he was like on not Carson. The Beatles were the Ed Sullivan Show, and whoever the people were like, "Oh yeah, it's like, the guy's doing our signing." He goes, "Hey, can I watch the Sullivan Show with you?" And they're like, "What?" He goes, "Yeah, I'm going to be on it." And they're like, "Nuh-uh." It's like they let him hang out, and then all of a sudden it's like Rodney Dangerfield, and he comes out, and they just looked at him. It's like, "Yeah," he's like, "It's me."
I get no respect.
My dad actually been to Dangerfields in New York. I think, because Dangerfields, I believe, since closed, if I recall. Oh. And it's like everybody would go to Dangerfields in the 80s to hope to see Rodney. Granted, you're in for a great time regardless, because you're going to get Andrew Dice Clay, Dom Irrera, Jerry Seinfeld. Somebody was going to be there, but it's like Rodney would just pop in and just do a set all of a sudden. It'd be the same jokes he's been telling for like 15 years. But it didn't matter how many times you heard it. He just told them so fast at rapid speed that you just couldn't breathe. The dude just made you almost pee yourself. One of my favorite comedians.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, it was brilliant. No, we watched a lot of his movies growing up. And, my dad, he was always, like, teaching us about just, like, different – he was always watching, like, older episodes of SNL. And then I remember – I think I was in college, and it was on Showtime. It was, like – it's just what you were saying, like, with Seinfeld. But it was he hosted at the Roxy in Hollywood. And, I mean, it was, like, Seinfeld, Jim Carrey, Foxworthy, Tim Allen, Roseanne, so many people before they made it big. And even it was even a Sam Kinnison's some of his first shows too. My dad was a big Kinnison guy too, and so we would watch some of his old stand-ups. But I mean, you just look at the people that Rodney had and who he discovered. I mean, he knew how to spot talent. And actually, the only time I saw him at a movie theater in Westwood, coming out of a movie theater. I was a little kid. I'm like, oh, that's yeah. And then he was actually getting his haircut at the same place, at the same barbershop in Brentwood. So I had two just like star sightings of him when I was a little kid, which is funny.
I would have loved to have seen Rodney Dangerfield. I've always been such a huge fan of that guy.
Yeah.
I mean,
oh, he's great.
You've obviously grown up. I mean, you're from Los Angeles, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you're seeing Rodney Dangerfield. You're going to all these places. Your family's, in the business. Did you ever just still have like a starstruck moment as an adult?
Oh gosh. I've had a couple. I've been very fortunate to be in some certain. I remembered when I was about 15, my cousin, she took me to a Grammy party, And I bumped into Mark Wahlberg, and it was like, I mean, at that time too, he was I was just really into like Boogie Nights and Basketball Diaries and like a lot of his earlier movies. And I think he was filming Rockstar because his hair was all out. And I just walked up and said, hey, I just really admire your work. And he actually just pulled me aside and talked to me and was just really encouraging. And I just thought, wow, what a cool guy. And then years later, because he was a client at WME too, and I actually got to meet him backstage at the Spike TV Awards and I have a selfie with him, and he was just super cool. That was a really cool moment.
I've never met any celebrities in person ever. My brother has met like 5. My mom's met like a bunch. My dad's met like Schwarzenegger, all those other people.
Right.
I'm always like there like the day after they were there, or the day before. Like it never lines up. Like my brother got to meet Shaq, and my brother, like me, like we're over 6 feet tall. My brother's like, I felt like a little kid next to that guy.
I had a Shaq encounter too. I was in Century City. It's near where they filmed Die Hard. There was a mall there, and I was walking, and I turned, and I bumped into his knees. That's how big. And I look up, and it's Shaq. And then it was funny because this was I was a little kid. It was in the 90s, and so it was him with 2 other guys, and everyone was just coming out of the stores like, it's Shaq.
I was like, wow, it's just like bump into like his toe, and it's like, oh god. It's like I don't know why they call Andre the Giant when you're like huge, man.
Right.
Mitch, do you have a question?
Well, because you've done some acting as well. How did you get into the acting part as opposed to just the voiceover stuff?
Yeah, well, I mean, I was always performing when I was a kid, and I talk about it now where I feel like, our generation, like millennials, we grew up, with VHS, and we were always like playing movies over and over. So it's funny how like there's certain movies that you just, if you're my age, you can just say a reference and people get it right away. And then and we noticed when, it was funny, like when I started WME, we're all out of college, and, just people around our age, we're like, there's things from like Dumb and Dumber and Happy Gilmore that are just references that everyone knows. And then, as the years went on, you'd be like, oh, the new generation, you started to know, and okay, we're like the older people, like they don't get certain references. And so, I mean, with that said, it was just, we were always just kind of performing, and this is before they had smartphones. Like we were like taking our parents' camcorders, writing scripts, making movies. And also I studied martial arts when I was a kid. So there was a group that we did karate with, and we do choreographies. And so when I was about 15, that's, like I said, my cousin took me to this Grammy party, and I was starting to hang out with some of her friends they were older than me, and they were already established. So I got an agent. I booked a couple commercials, and, I did some jobs here and there. I always liked working. So I was always, like I said, I booked a few things, and then I was like a videographer for some friends who were in bands, and I worked other jobs. And then when I was in college, I think it was more the broadcast and, whatchamacallit, I was just really interested in studying like film history and cinema, and then I was studying business law and computers as well. And so then I took some theater classes too. I kept going, and then I was, even after college, I didn't know where. I thought, okay, I'll just be an agent. And then it just seems like even every time I try to just shift gears, there's some like, no, Cash, you have to come back and do this. And so when I was at WME, my cousin was working on the Runaways movie, the one with about Joan Jett that Kristen Stewart and Dakota Fanning did. And so one of the agents I was working with Joan and was packaging that with the music, and then she ended up managing me. And then there was a movie called Undateable John. It came, so we shot this like years ago, and this came, I want to say it was like maybe 10 years ago. So that was kind of my first jump back into it, because there was a part that I got to do with Shannon Doherty, and then after that they offered me the lead role in this other thing that Joan was producing. So so that's really how I jumped back into the movie stuff. And then through that we were trying to find distribution, and I started going to local festivals, and that's how I really met a lot of the people I became friends with and collaborated with.
Okay. Well, I heard you mentioned that you studied karate and stuff when you were younger. I also saw on your demo reel that you've done like some stunt work.
Oh, right. Yeah.
How was that, doing like the wire works and all that kind of stuff?
Oh, it was such a blessing. And that was another thing I got to try right before the pandemic. And that is something, a benefit of social media. Like I remember, I forgot, there were, someone I know I saw someone, there were probably like 3 friends from like who didn't know each other, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what is this thing? So we were, a few months leading up to it, we kept trying to get it, and then it just happened to work where it was just before the pandemic when the last ones they did. I'm like, there was such a rush. You know, they put you in the harnesses, and you do all these exercises to warm up, and then when you're just at the beginning, I couldn't do a front cartwheel, and then I'm doing backflips, doing the choreography. So that was pretty gnarly. And then they opened it up again. There's a new studio, but we did the last time we did the sword choreography, and then they drop you on the wire, and we get to alternate the roles. Like you're the hero in one role, then you're the person who gets kicked, and then like it pushes you back, you fly into these boxes and everything. So yeah, it's fun.
It looks like it'd be a lot of fun just to film that out and just to get to play around and do some of that stuff.
I mean, I guess like
you can be a Marvel superhero for a day. It's incredible.
I mean, some of the stuff was like, you're just gonna get kicked and you're gonna go flying, and then it's just like, and then like the director comes and goes, all right, so here's what's gonna happen. We're gonna put you in a helicopter, and you see that Crown Vic, we're gonna crash it into it while it's flying. You're gonna jump out and fall like 8 stories. It's like with the rotors going and everything, and I'm like, what?
Yep, they throw you right into it, and you have to be Tom Cruise.
Oh my god! Or like there's always crazy stunt histories and about crazy stunts that you see in movies, especially ones that were like, there's no way they actually did that, but they did. Mm-hmm. One of them is in the James Bond movie, The Man with the Golden Gun, where they flipped the car sideways. They did it.
Okay,
they did it in one shot. Like it worked, and then they added that stupid sound effect, and then the director's like, "We ruined the whole movie because we did that." It's like the movie wasn't that great, but we ruined it with a sound effect.
Aw.
Or in Jaws, like when the shark's attack in the cage, it's not like an action figure or what's his face, Richard Dreyfuss in the tank. It's actually a shorter person to add scale, but that shark was ripping that thing apart with that poor guy stuck inside. I'm like, there's no amount of money you're paying me. It's like, we're going to put you underwater with a giant great white shark. No. We'll give you $1 million. Not enough. Not enough. I want to live to enjoy it.
Well, you've done acting, you've done voiceover work, you've done stunt work. You've also evidently done directing and producing. What kind of, how did you get into that part of film?
I mean, that was, like I said, when we were kids, we were just kind of pulling out cameras. We'd have a script and an idea, and then and again, this was before cell phones took off. So I think that's where that came from. And then as far as like directing, it's really just been with, on air with Kash. And, the thing too is I think when I was like a little kid, there was this kind of perception of like, okay, you go into one field where people are trying to say, or, you're good. Like I said, you're just going to be an agent. You're just going to be a producer. You're just going to be a director. But then what had ended up happening in the 2000s, I felt there were just so much with technology, of course, smartphones, and just so many things became accessible that everyone seems to wear different hats. And most of the people I'm friends with, I have friends who, either they were, they had shows when we were kids and they come out of it and we'll be like, I feel like I just want to be a cinematographer, a director, or we have, and I think, or a lot of times, I always say, hey, if you want to pay me to like star in movies, I'll totally do that. But then what ends up happening, especially with the independent movies that happen, you get booked in a role, and then I end up, talking with the director, and they, pick my brain for ideas. I'm like, I got a connection at this film festival, or, there's someone at this company that I think could do. So I end up taking on a producer role, and then sometimes, things fall through and you got to be ready to just jump in. And sometimes I've had to step in when something doesn't work out, or I'll be like, hey, I know someone who's perfect for this job. We'll get this person. So I think it's got to be a jack of all trades, I guess.
So with being a jack of all trades, what was your original goal? Like, you're going to go to school for film stuff. It's like, what, early on in your life, what did you want to do the most?
Yeah. People were always, my mom was always saying, I was always performing and drawing. And so I had this artistic side, but I always had a business side too. And, I think I got that a lot from my dad in the sense of where, I remember even like, early on, you'd go to acting classes and you'd, and I always loved movies, and that was things like I was really, I was passionate about it, so I got into it. But, again, there's certain, opportunities, are scarce. Very rarely can you just jump in and be like, okay, you book this, and then you're on a roll. Some people have had that. But other times it's like, hey, you can, I've been on a roll, and then it dries up, and then you got to be ready to be like, hey, I got to pay my bills. I got to make some stuff happen. And so I was able to, so like I said, my dad was in music publishing. So, I think when I went to WME, that was like, okay, this is a good foundation for where I need to be. And at the time I thought, okay, great. At the time it was like Entourage was the hot show and everyone was about becoming like CEOs. And I think that was a theme in the 2000s. So I went in there with that sense. And then it was, like I said, it was this idea of, jumping back and acting. I was like, oh, okay, this is an independent movie. So I really do feel like I do feel the most alive when I'm like behind the mic or when I'm, developing a character. Like if I have like a passion, I'd say that's it.
Mitch scrolling furiously through his laptop.
Well, I was scrolling through because you had mentioned you were in the film festivals and you've done a lot with those. All I have to go off of is IMDb at the moment. But you've got a lot of wins in different categories for your film festivals that you've been through.
Right.
Yeah. I think you say you've got best podcast, best web series, best host, all for your On Air with Cash, best variety talk show. Mm-hmm. It's really impressive to have so many wins, especially for just the one show specifically.
Mitch, have you been entering us into it?
No. I really appreciate that. And I really attributed a lot to the guests. And, like I said, it started off as a camaraderie thing where, especially during the pandemic where we were talking about, there was a lot uncertain. So we were able to, stay connected, talk about what was going on. And then as the show grew, because it was a lot of the bigger podcasts that are really popular now, like that, those were my inspirations for wanting to get into it. So when I have, and it's been a theme lately where, people have opened up and we all talk. I like that there's not as much of a stigma about expressing, obstacles we've gone through and even addressing mental health. I think that's very important because, a lot, even just growing up, you didn't have social media when I was, in middle school. It really didn't come. I think it was like I was in college when even social media started. I know I'm dating myself, but I don't care anymore.
That's when I kind of got a Facebook. It's like my first year in college. So
yeah, I remember when MySpace was a thing.
Yeah, oh, totally. Yeah, I think that was like, what is this MySpace?
Or even going back further before that, AOL Instant Messenger.
Yeah.
I remember. I was like so not tech savvy back then. It was like someone would just like DM me. I'm like, dude, just call me, or or it was. And this is like, especially when we were younger, people would be like, "Sup?" And I'm like, "Okay, it's really you're like reaching out." Like, I remember.
Or when you would call somebody, you had to like
that's that way, yeah.
Or like calling your friends, you had to be like, "Okay, I'm going to call between this time." So be there at the phone, so you didn't have to like talk to their parents and be like, "Oh, hey, Mrs. Smith, is Joey there?"
But the interesting thing is because look at how communication was back then, where it's like, "Hey, what's up?" And that just drove me nuts when it was like people who were just texting or DMing like something, like, okay, what are you reaching out about? But I think the communication got so cut, and even with certain entertainment outlets, there's so many quick takes and edits where I think that's why podcasting is becoming prevalent, is because people are, it's like quick responses, but they really want to hear an open dialogue. They want to hear people talk about a topic thoroughly instead of just, a few talking points.
Right. And I kind of agree with that because, we don't mind coming on here and talking about the new stuff that each person has coming out. But whenever we do interviews, we really like to kind of get to know the person, behind, just whoever they're playing in a movie or TV show or anything like that.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because, you watch, a bunch of interviews, and some interviews are really, really good. Some are really, really bad. Like the guy from Hot Ones, that dude, like, asks questions that everyone just kind of stops. Like, even though, like, they're dying from the hot sauce, they're like, that's a really well done question. And then others just like, what's your favorite color? Yeah. And it's like green. It's like, okay, moving on. I saw one guy's like, he asked a question. Like, I thought it was funny. He's like, all right, you're at a bar in a city you've never been in. It's 5:00 in the afternoon. What are you ordering? And he's like, oh man. He's like, is it like a fully stocked bar? Like they had like a whole conversation about just sitting at a bar. Like, what do you do?
Yeah.
What would you order?
What would I order?
Yeah.
Where are we? Where are we? What would I order?
New York City, October 3rd. It's a Thursday. You're in Lower Manhattan. It's 5:00. There's one other person sitting at the bar on the opposite end. Fully stocked bar. It's like a speakeasy kind of look. What are you going to order?
You said October 3rd. That is my birthday. So if I'm in New York,
is it really?
Yeah, October. Yeah, you have all days you mentioned, and it was on a Thursday this year. So maybe I'd order an old fashioned, or since it's a celebration, or a good tequila, and just kind of get the night started before I'm meeting up with everyone and partying.
That's a great answer. That should be a new segment. What's your drink? Someone will start that as a show.
Right.
And it's amazing how fast we talk about with podcasts, like just how it changed. Because even before the pandemic, there's people like I knew. It's like, oh, I do a podcast, and everybody was just kind of like, oh, that's nice. Like nobody really was like, oh, what even is podcasting? But now it's just taken off. Like everyone does something. Like there's people who just like they interview people, they talk about movies, they talk about murders, they talk about real life events. They do like an audio dramas. Like it's such a huge sphere of things that can happen on just one show that I don't think TV has really grasped.
Well, I kind of feel like
definitely.
I kind of feel like podcasting, like originally was like the people low on the totem pole, like us, just wanting to talk and try and get our names out there. But then like as the years have gone on, you've got bigger and bigger stars doing different podcasts. You've got like I watched the TV show Smallville all the time. Well, now like the guy that played Lex Luthor and Clark Kent on there are just doing a rewatch of their entire series with one of their friends that had never seen it, and they're just talking about each episode. I listen to that every week.
Oh yeah, no, actually, he was, because actually that was a motivator too, because that Michael Rosenbaum, I worked with him the year leading up to the pandemic. We signed him, so he was coming in a lot, and he was the one telling me about his podcast, and I started listening to it every morning on my way to work. And I was like, bro, I just love what you're doing. I love how you're connect. And there were people who I was, like even Beverly D'Angelo, she was a client, so and I ended up interviewing her and having her on the show. We had a great conversation. So that's the thing. Rosenbaum was actually one of my motivators as well.
Yeah, his Inside of You podcast is. I listened to that one as well, and I think he does a really good job. He talks about he talks to different actors and actresses about their like mental health and things like that. So.
Oh yeah, definitely.
That's why I like having our interviews more casual, just getting to know the people and stuff like that.
Totally, yeah.
Versus like a police interrogation, like where were you? Why'd you do this? Why'd you get into acting? Yeah. I want the truth. Don't you lie to me. Because everybody, after the Batman movies, you watch a lot of police stuff. Everybody has to growl in an interview now.
Where is he?
Where are the drugs?
Batman.
Where's the Joker?
Where's the Joker?
So if you were going to give someone advice about doing a podcast, like just somebody who's on the streets, like, I'd love to do a show, what would be your advice to just doing a good start to a pod?
Again, advice, I just kind of share my own experiences and just be passionate about what it is, know your craft, and just really know how to engage with people. I think that's the thing too is, because hopefully I don't want to say, oh, this is the only thing that I do, because I'm sure that I might come across a certain way, so I don't want to contradict myself. But a lot of times it's, I like, there are times when you like certain people, and it shows when I'm not as connected, or, because I've interviewed people who are great people and good at what they do, but sometimes it's like they're in a field or a topic that maybe isn't my thing. But, I still engage and I talk. And so it's, for me, it's, and it's a job. So sometimes, you get stuff that's like, okay, I'm glad I met this person. But then there's other people where it's apparent like, whoa, we have a connection. And there's been so many of them where, whether they're peers of mine or someone who I just met who I know shared a similar experience. So it's really, I think the best parts that have come through in the show is when it's people that you really connect with and you really know, or it's, oh gosh, I'm just trying to think of, like we've had people where it's like I was running in certain circles with, and I didn't know that well, and then all of a sudden I get like their bio. I'm like, oh my gosh, we were like crisscrossing at different times. Mm-hmm. You had an experience with this person, so I think those are where the better episodes come from.
Well, and that's I went to like I'm a big fan of Power Rangers, which Tom is too, but I went to one of like the conventions that they had, and they had some of the people from the Ninja Turtles there, which one of them was Francois Chow, which he played Shredder in like the second Ninja Turtles movie. Well, I've talked to him several times on social media and stuff, just because we interviewed him eventually, and just talking back and forth with him like through like the private messages. asking how things have been, and because he just got a new role in the Penguin. He's like the leader of the Triad gang in that. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it's pretty neat, because he was that. He's been in The Expanse. He was in was it Rescue Dawn with Christian Bale. And he was like the general that had captured him at the time. He's been in a lot of different things, and he's had an interesting life because he came from overseas when he was real young.
Mm-hmm.
So,
gotcha. Wow, fascinating.
Yeah, it's just neat because when you meet people and can actually just sit and have a conversation with them, especially when when it's
I can't remember the guy's name. The fellow that owned the haunted hotel.
Oh, Frank Monteleone,
who owned a haunted hotel in New Orleans, like right there on Bourbon Street. It was like 200 years old, and they're like asking him like about like his acting stuff, and I was like, "You own a haunted hotel? Have you seen paranormal stuff personally?" And he's like, "Yeah, I have." And it's like then we had like 30 minutes of talking about ghosts.
Well, me and Hayden had to make Tom move on from the ghost.
Look, you see, hey, you own a haunted hotel. We're not just gonna not talk about it. It's like how haunted? Like, are pictures flying off the wall? Are people disappearing? Or is it just every now and then the lights flicker and maybe you hear a thud? Is there any projects or anything you want to plug before we wrap up?
Oh gosh, we actually at this upcoming weekend, and not this, so a week from today, I'm going to be at Film Fest LA at LA Live. It's at Regal Cinemas, right near the Crypto Arena. And so this is my 6th year hosting. It's Kash Hovey and Friends. So they have an all-day festival of films, TV, pilots. It's a great event that they put on. And then at the end, they have this segment called Kash Hovey and Friends, where it's some work that me and my collaborators and Stephen, friends in the industry, excuse me, we're all, we have a screening. And it's a great time, come on down. It's like 7 o'clock red carpet. Then the show will start at 9. And there's a couple of new projects I've worked on. The Hit, which just screened at Burbank International Film Festival. Another one called Marble with some of the same team. And then also one of our friends who's in that block with us, Valerie Brandy. She's screening a trailer for her new book. But we actually wrapped a feature together it was last year. And it's in post-production now, and they're shopping it around some festivals. So, yeah, I'm pumped to see how that turns out.
That's awesome. I'm sure everything's going to work out absolutely great with
thanks.
all the stuff you got going. I mean, obviously, you're doing very, very well. The awards page just keeps going.
Oh, you're too kind. Thank you.
Mitch has been scrolling for 5 minutes, and it's like award. All I got was like best sportsmanship when I played baseball, which basically means thanks for showing up.
We all got our participation. Yeah, that was the thing with our generation. We all got the participation trophies.
I try to forget them. And they spelled my name wrong, too.
Been there.
Well, I really just want to say thank you for taking time out of your Saturday to sit here with me and Mitch and talk about your life experiences and things you've been working on. And we'll be more than happy to plug everything if you have links or stuff when we do our posts for social media to check out your stuff, too.
Absolutely. Please do. Yeah. Oh, you guys are incredible. It's been so fun.
And normally we promote our show by just writing the website down, and you just spray paint it in any men's room you visit that's public. And that's pretty much how we've been spreading.
I've made business cards, and I just kind of leave them around at places now.
Good. Hey, you know it.
Tie messages to wild animals to see who finds it.
Yeah.
But thank you for joining us. That was this episode of Entertain This. My name was Tom.
I'm Mitch.
And today we had Mr. Kash Hovey, and we'll catch you on the next one.